In this video, we're going to start to use some of our more advanced sketching tools, hence the title. So what we need to do is we're actually going to, after we log into Onshape, we're going to click on our sketching document, which will open it. In this case, we're actually going to do a little document management before we get started drawing. At the very bottom, you're going to see where it says Part Studio 1. It gives you a little preview when you hover over it. If I right-click on it, it gives me the ability to rename it. So this one, I wanted to rename the title of that activity, which was Sketching Tools. You should do the same. Naming these tabs, especially if you get into doing a complex part where you have more than 2 parts, really helps you keep things organized. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign and create a new Part Studio. They now call that Part Studio 1, and after it loads, I am going to rename it, and I'm going to rename it ADV Sketching. For advanced sketching, we don't need to type the whole word out. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and click the front plane, start my sketch, and rotate to look straight at it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to my line tool, and I am going to draw a line straight up from the origin. Cool part is doing this the way we're going to do it, you will be able to fully define this sketch, which will be a good practice. I'm going to click on the line, so it's orange, and there's this button right here that says Construction. And what that does is it turns it into this patterned line that we use to do something to other objects. Okay, in our case, this is going to be a center line that we're going to use the mirror tool, which is right here, to create a face, basically, by only drawing one half of it, though. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get a corner rectangle rectangle. And I am not going to go on the origin. I'm going to come on the construction line. You can see this turns orange. I'm going to come on the construction line above the origin and then make a rectangle. I am going to take my dimension tool and I'm going to add 3 dimensions. I'm going to dimension the height of the rectangle at 40. I'm going to dimension the width at 30. And I am going to click the origin and then the bottom line. And you can see that gives me the distance. And I am going to set this at 10. You'll notice how now all of the blue lines have turned to black. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my center point circle. I am going to click along the edge somewhere. Do not get to the midpoint. Don't do the midpoint, okay? And don't do the end point. Do kind of somewhere between them towards the outside. Click once for the center. Click a second time to put it right on the edge there. The next thing I'm going to do is dimension this. So as I click on it, come out this way, and I'm going to put this at 15. You'll notice that because I put the edge of the circle on this line, it locked itself there. You might also want to move some stuff around if you feel like things are in the way. Now, one of the things we have going on here is we now have 2 shapes that overlap where they kind of create, if you look at it, I've got 1, 2, 3 different enclosed areas. And even though you don't know quite where we're going with this yet, I don't want 3 enclosed areas. This is kind of the outline shape of the face that I'm going to create. So I want to cut some of these parts of lines away and so that I don't have to deal with them. That tool is called Trim. It's right here. It looks like scissors. So when I click the Trim tool and I hover over a part, you'll notice part of it between 2 intersections turns orange. And if that's what I want to go away, I click and that goes away. And I'm going to click there and I'm going to click here. Now at this point, some of our lines went back to being underdefined, which is the blue. We're going to come back and fix those after we do kind of the last part of this, which is where I'm going to take a line and I'm going to draw from the origin to this point right here. And I'm going to get my trim tool and I'm going to trim this line away. Now, what you'll notice is this line is here, but it doesn't completely enclose everything, okay? And actually, I'm not going to want a line down the center anyways, so I am going to trim that away as well. Oh, I'm going to undo that because the first trim that it did on the construction line, and since it's a complete line, I can just actually get on just this line, which I guess looks easier than it is. So I'm going to show you a little trick for selecting things. So if I click on the left side and drag to the right, the only things that it will select is anything completely in the box, which you can see is the line I want to delete. However, if I click from the right and drag towards the left, you'll notice it selected anything it touched. So just a quick little tip there, when you're trying to pick something that overlaps, you can drag from the left to the right and get just that and delete it. So this is what I want to end up with. Okay. Now, sometimes in order to get these more defined, we want to see what constraints or relationships have already been applied. As I hover over things, you can see that there's some tangent stuff that's showing up. There's some various other things that are showing up. So if I click Show Constraints here, I get to see all of them. Okay, so this is a horizontal line. This is a vertical line. Different things intersect here. Intersect here. This should be a vertical line. So I'm going to add that one. Something that's going to help up here is this point and this point should be horizontal. Okay. Actually, I believe if we select the line and the point and make those horizontal, as we pull the points around, okay. And I believe if we also do these two, we should start to see some getting fully defined. I'm still a little confused as to why we're not doing that. But, all right, we're going to use some dimensions. One of the two things that I just showed you kind of briefly was if I want to dimension between two things, I can click those two things. So if I click from here to here, because they're not parallel lines, I get the angle between them. If they were parallel lines, I would get the distance. I'm just going to click OK there. I am going to also, oh, I see what's happened. Here's my problem. At one point, that measurement went away. So that was my 30mm measurement. So that one went away, which is why all of these weren't getting defined when I was adding those relationships. So just in case that happens to you, which it probably will when you trim or delete some of the certain things, you might have to add this measurement back in, as you can see I did between this line and this line. So far I'm fully defined. Okay, I'm now going to add a couple other things. I'm going to add a circle, and where I'm going to add this is I'm going to use my dimension tool, and when I click a circle and an object, it will dimension from between them. Now most of the time what we want to do if we're trying to locate a circle, and this is one of the things I don't like about Onshape, is I have to pick, if I want from the center to somewhere, I have to pick it specifically. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to do this at 20 there. From the center to this line here, I want to do as 15. And the size is going to be 8. Okay, so those are the dimensions for that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rectangle, corner rectangle. Actually, yeah, let's do this as a corner rectangle. And again, I am going to click on here and I am going to make it. And if you see, I kind of come out and it finds where you would vertically be lined up with that origin. If you're not getting that, you may need to get a little closer to it or even kind of hover over it for a second to get this relationship there. And that's what I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my trim tool to start with to get rid of this end line there. And then I am going to dimension the top line as 20. Now, here's an interesting little thing. With showing constraints on, I'm going to actually take this part off. And see this one, there's one that makes this vertical. However, this line does not appear to have a vertical one on it. So I should be able to do is make this 18. Ah, there it goes. I broke it. Cool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to undo that. I'm going to get rid of this dimension for that, relationship, that vertical relationship there. And I am going to now try to dimension this again, because now that should not be a vertical line. There we go. So sometimes you will draw something, you know a relationship is going to be added, but you're going to actually remove it just to get what you want to show up. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to say how big the mouth opening is. And we're going to go with 4 on that. And I'm also going to go from the mouth line, the bottom mouth line, to the origin. And that's going to be 15. You'll notice all of my lines currently are black based on either our constraint relationships or my dimensions. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is actually, before we move on, I do want to show you a tool that is called Sketch Fillet. You'll notice my little robot head here has a lot of, we're going to just call them sharp corners. So I'm going to go ahead and just fillet some of these, which will just basically round them off. So when I get the tool, it wants me to click on stuff. So as I click on a corner, it gives me a 5mm radius is what it kind of rounds that corner off at. I want you to click that corner, and I want you to click this corner right here. Okay, and as the mouse shows you, if I then click into empty space, it puts those in, and it gives me the opportunity to change it. Now, these two are linked, so they're going to be the same. So if 5mm was too much, I could change it to 2, 4, whatever I needed to change it to. At this point, and I can always come back and change it based on the dimension that's right here. At this point, I have everything drawn, and I'm ready to mirror my drawing. That's going to create a mirror image of it on the other side. So what I do is I'm going to drag a line up here to select everything in the drawing except the center line. I click mirror, and because it already had that part of that center line selected, it mirrored it. So now I have my completed drawing and everything is fully defined and ready to be turned in.